of the afternoon session today, which is going to be technology that boosts your resume with Xero. This is going to be a fantastic session, and really glad that you're here. So we're on Tuesday of Meet the Firms Week. This is webinar number 4. We've got a full slate for the rest of the week. You can check out the remaining webinars at meetthefirmsweek.com and click on the webinars link. So everything is geared, as everything always is with Accounting Fly, is geared towards your future, whether you're a college student seeking an internship, a recent grad looking for your first job, or a graduate looking for your second, third, or fourth job. We are here to work on career options and everything related to your career future. So thank you for being here today. And like I said, I'm Jeff Phillips with Accounting Fly. Let's see here. What else do we need to cover? Going forward after Meet the Firms Week, you will see a ton of career education content from Accounting Fly. We're going to be rolling out even more webinars throughout the course of the year. So we want to hear from you. What is the content that you would like to hear? We can't guess. So when you tell us, we're going to pull that together. It was interesting. We've been looking at some of the emails and some of the responses on our surveys, what kind of content people want to see, and there have been things that we never would have thought that is interesting and compelling for you in terms of career options, technology that you need, how to pass a CPA exam, how to prepare for a career. So you're going to be seeing a lot of great content coming down the pike from Accounting Fly over the next 12 months. If you haven't already, take a look at our job board. It is the accounting industry's job board, and we work with hundreds of firms to communicate their openings, including internships and entry-level positions nationwide. But the trick is to build a profile, and if you haven't, you should. Your profile and your resume at the end of Meet the Firms Week will be sent to all participating firms in your state. With a completed profile, you're eligible for our monthly scholarship of $500. And really, it's a lifetime profile, which can be found by recruiters throughout the entire course of your career. So you don't want to miss out a chance just to be on the site. So a lot of webinars this week, and this one is going to be specifically interesting about how to build up your resume. And I think that this is what's so compelling about Xero and today's webinar is that we talk to a lot of students who, while are learning the technical skills of becoming an accountant, are not aware of the software, of the accounting tools that firms use every single day to serve clients. So why not get exposed to them now so that you're a more attractive candidate to the firms that you apply to? And that's precisely why we wanted to introduce you to Xero. Xero is an accounting software business. Xero was recently named one of the most innovative companies in the world, and I believe that was by Forbes magazine. It is a phenomenal company led by great people. You're going to meet Evan, who is an education specialist with Xero today, as well as a Xero user, Sabrina Covington, who's a CPA in the Orlando, Florida area, who uses Xero in her day-to-day practice. And they're going to tell you about why this is an important technology that could help you land a job and help you in your job. So that being said, you've got the webinar panel to your right-hand side of your screen. You've got the question panel down below. We normally ask what school you're from, but we're going to skip that today. I just want to make sure you know where the question panel is, because I encourage you to ask lots of questions. Let's dig in deep. I'll be back in a little while helping Evan with questions, and I think that is going to cover all the business. I'll be back also just kind of wrap things up at the end. So, Evan Hall with Xero out of San Francisco. We are so grateful that you're here today. Look forward to hearing what you have to say, and I know you're going to introduce yourself and also introduce Sabrina Covington. So with that, I'll back away. Evan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say today.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that introduction. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Hall. I'm an educator at Xero, and real quickly, my background, I worked as an accountant for small businesses for about 10 years or so, and since the topic today is preparing yourself for the job market and resume building, the very first job I got, I did not take accounting courses in college, but I ended up with a job in accounting. And at the time, the guy who hired me because I didn't have experience, and he figured that he liked the other stuff on my resume, and he could teach me, the accounting stuff that business needed. But he liked, the other ways that I was able to present myself. And I think that really ties into what we're talking about today. That one of the best things you can do to prepare yourself for the job market is not assume that you know what the person reading your resume is looking for. To use resources like Accounting Fly and such, and these presentations, to get a broader perspective of how what employers actually want might differ from what they put down on paper, and being prepared to identify and look for those opportunities. And that's going to be a big theme of what we talk about today. What I do now, I am an educator at Xero. So Xero is cloud-based accounting software for small businesses, and so I get to put on webinars and record videos and sometimes do live sessions where I get to teach people how it works, and it is a ton of fun because it is an awesome product, and it's like delivering good news to people every day, because a lot of people don't know that Xero exists, and so I love to be the one to tell them about it and show them exactly how it works, because it really, especially folks that have been in the industry for a long time, it really changes the way they look at how they manage their day. But more on that later. What I want to do next is introduce our other presenter, Sabrina Covington. And I'm going to let Sabrina quickly introduce herself in more detail. But Sabrina is a Xero partner and uses Xero at her business. Sabrina, I want you to say hi to the nice people and tell us a little more about you.
Thank you, Evan. Hello, everybody. I'm glad you're here for the seminar today. I'm a firm owner. I had my own accounting business for over 10 years. I have 2 locations here in Orlando and also up in D.C. And we had to do a major pivot with our small business clients and move over to Xero. So through this seminar, to help you boost your resume, I want you to ask any questions that you think future employers will be looking at on your resume, because as someone who has a staff of 10, I know what I'm looking for personally, and maybe that can help you out at the end of the seminar. But more important than that, I just really want to let you guys be aware of the new technology that's out there, and how, depending on what path you go, you guys will be touching bases with Xero in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks, Sabrina. So as you can tell, Sabrina is well-versed in the industry and has been very successful. And so as we go through this presentation, as Jeff mentioned, the GoToWebinar control panel allows you to ask questions. So please feel free, whatever questions are on your mind, this is your chance to pick Sabrina's brain. So I've got a lot of material prepared that I'm excited to show you, but we also want to incorporate your questions. So we're going to be looking to Sabrina for a lot of Q&A, both during as well as after the webinar. So keep those questions and thoughts coming by way of the GoToWebinar control panel that you got there on your screen. But with that said, let's jump into what perhaps I can tell all of you about preparing yourselves for the job market out there. All right, so if I told you the world has changed, would you believe me? Would you even know what I was talking about? To begin, I guess I just have to ask you to trust me that, in fact, the world has changed. And the important thing to keep in mind about that idea is that in order to succeed today, you have to understand where the people around you have come from and what assumptions they are bringing into the conversation. Because they have a different set of experiences and opinions and such than what you have. And obviously that's part of what makes us all beautiful and unique and such. But preparing yourself for that and being able to identify where other people are coming from is going to give you a chance to figure out, is this a person that I want to work with? If it is, how can I explain to them that I'm the best fit for the job? And a big piece of how you can start that planning is by figuring out the skills you already have that might have huge value that you don't appreciate. Think for a moment about an Olympic athlete. Any sport, it doesn't matter. They are exceptionally good at what they do, and there's no doubt that they work incredibly hard. But you know what? If you look at the best pole vaulter, the best ice skater, on a bad day when they were 5 years old, they were better at those sports than I am today. They have an innate ability, and it's that ability that they have built off of. To them, it doesn't necessarily seem hard. Even though they're working hard, that initial skill and ability was just there, and they probably took it for granted until they realized that they could compete on the world stage. That is where you want to start your career path now. Figure out the tools that you already have that in your mind you might be undervaluing. So what might some of those tools look like? Well, if you take a step back and look broadly at computing in general, and now with its accounting's reliance on computing, computers have evolved a lot. When you think way back in the day, you think of like mainframe computers, and then that mainframe setup led toward sort of the PC world, where you had Mac and Windows really battling each other, and then today we've got the cloud. And for most of you, the cloud is probably a no-brainer. And you kind of think to yourself, why wouldn't I use the cloud? But that is not a no-brainer conclusion for a lot of people out there. And in particular, a lot of the people that you are going to be trying to get jobs from. It's not that they don't understand or necessarily appreciate, but keep in mind that their experience up to this point is a reliance on these older technologies. And it can be a lot harder to let go of that old way of thinking than to adopt a new way of thinking with a clean slate. Sabrina, do you have any just off the top of your head thoughts of folks you've encountered in the industry that have that sort of old school PC mindset where you feel sorry for them because they just aren't getting it?
Absolutely. I have a number of them. I was just at a tax update seminar, and the people in the room were, older people, but they embrace that desktop computer. They're usually pretty much small firms. They may have 5 to 6 people, but as accountants, we're not quick to embrace technology, and we're very feral. So with the cloud, one, there's a system of mistrust, like Evan was saying, where anybody can hack into my data and get it, which is absolutely not true that we know as of the newer generation. Second is that they want to pay one time for software, let's just say, a desktop software, and keep it. But the problems I encountered and why I had to do a major pivot is that I needed the time I spent updating that software and doing stuff was an opportunity cost. It wasn't a hard cost, but it was a waste of my time and going back and forth with my clients. These accountants are still doing that, and as a result, they're still staying at that same level, and some of them are dying off because they can't keep up with the demand and they're not being efficient. As the world has changed, as Evan says, you have to be in real time, and cloud software is allowing you to do that. And if you don't embrace that as a firm owner, no matter how old you are, you're going to get left behind. And I'm seeing that more and more happen with a lot of the old school accountants who aren't embracing that change.
Well put. And so, really you want your resume to highlight any kind of cloud experience you can justify. It could have even been something that you did, not work related. It could be school related. It could be hobby related. If you can position yourself as someone who is knowledgeable in the cloud, if you're talking to an employer who has embraced the cloud, they're going to love that you're on the same page. If you're talking to an employer who sort of knows that the cloud is a thing, but they're not sure what it's about, you can position yourself as potentially a champion for them. And if you're talking to someone who's like the cloud, no, please save me, then maybe that's not who you want to be working for in the first place. But this change to the cloud for computing and accounting in general, it's really important because, setting aside accountants for a second, when you just look at small businesses, and keep in mind, a lot of accounting firms are small businesses. You've got the really big players out there, but there are a whole bunch of small businesses with maybe just a handful of people that offer accounting and bookkeeping services. But whether they're an accounting firm or any other kind of small business, cloud is the biggest change that arguably has ever happened to them. And so why is that? Well, quite simply, you get access to some really powerful tools, but it's easy to get them and it's much more affordable. So you don't have to, as Sabrina was saying, you don't have to go and buy some giant piece of software for thousands of dollars. For a few dollars a month, you can sign up for these services that used to be exclusively available to only the real big players. You look at something like Facebook. You may be using Facebook to share selfies one day, but then you've got businesses that have built themselves entirely on that platform. And even companies, whether it's Xero or even much larger companies, they're using Facebook every day to market their business. So it's interesting because you've got these tools that sort of ride the line between personal use as well as public use. And if you can, again, figure out a way that perhaps you've already used some of these tools. Maybe it was to organize a sports team, like an intramural team or whatever it might be. The fact that you've been using these tools in your daily life, you can leverage that to demonstrate experience in lieu of actual on-the-job experience. But the availability of these cloud technologies, it's more than what you can do with them. It's also where you do it. And so, movies, TV, etc., when you look at people at work, it would be a workplace similar to this one, right? But I love the analogy that work used to be a place, and you can kind of split that word apart because that place is no longer as relevant as it used to be. Now, whether it's Xero or really any of the cloud and software as a service options that are out there, help you conduct a variety of tasks. You can do that work anytime, anywhere, from your phone, from your tablet, from your laptop, from your PC. The options really start to multiply out. And so whether you're an accountant and you're working remotely with a client, whether you are a small business owner and now instead of having to sit at your desk to work on deals, you can actually go out and visit all your clients at their various locations and work on stuff remotely. It really changes the way that you're able to interact with all the people that you work with and where you're able to be and maximize that time that you're working to make yourself a little more productive. And along those lines, I know Sabrina, as someone who embraces cloud technology, what does your workplace or perhaps lack of workplace look today compared to maybe what it was like just a few years ago?
Well, I mean, there's definitely the flexibility. Now, I do have brick and mortar offices here in D.C. and Orlando, but the flexibility, like you said, going out to clients, being able to be in at the same time with the clients, and then some of them even outsourcing their accounting because they have the flexibility to scan documents to the portal and work through Xero and take pictures and source documentation. It just makes it easier and simpler to be on the same page with the clients and giving them what they need instantly.
Awesome. So we've got this big change in computing, which is trickling down to a big change for the accounting industry. But what exactly is driving that change? Why is all of this happening? Well, even though it may feel like cloud technology and such has sprung up overnight, and it may not feel that way to you, but I know you can talk to a lot of people in the industry, and it'll have that sense. But if you quickly read the kind of the quote that I've got there on the screen, you'll see that this is not an overnight change. This is something that we've been headed toward for a really long time. And so it's not so much where did it come from, it's that we happen to right now be at the point where all these pieces are working together in a much more effective way. And as you look at all of these technologies kind of converging to where they're able to create a whole that is greater than the sum of the parts, there are three trends that really seem to come out and have stood out as not only exceptionally powerful given the direction the computers have headed, but also then serve business as well. So obviously being mobile, as I just mentioned, the fact that you can be at your office if you take transit into work. Even these days, if you're on a plane going somewhere, Wi-Fi is pretty ubiquitous on planes. And so time that used to just be dead in the air, now it's like another day at work, and you're getting stuff done. The cloud, of course, between the ability to easily back up and preserve data, but also to access those tools that I mentioned, are available now that didn't used to be available to small businesses simply because they needed a bunch of infrastructure. They needed servers and people who were qualified to operate those servers and big software suites that required extensive training and constant maintenance. And now you just log into a site and it does some little thing for you. And then the social aspect of things, the fact that you can use some of these mobile and cloud tools to really drive not only messages you want to push out to your customers, but also getting info back from them so that you can quickly make adjustments. If you realize that a certain marketing approach or product is running into trouble, you can make changes within the day, within the hour, within the minute even, rather than realizing too late that a change is required. Sabrina, I have a question for you. Of these three technology trends, which of these do you think is the most undervalued by folks in the accounting industry today?
That is an awesome question, Evan. I think it's really a toss-up, and social's eking out a little bit of cloud. And this is where you guys on the seminar, you can really boost your seminar, boost your resume and come out as a superstar and pull yourself out. The cloud, for most of us accountants, I'm unfortunate to say they still see it as some mythical creature and they don't understand what it is. Whereas, you guys innately know that. You probably grew up with it and you know it very good. Another thing is social media. A lot of us don't grasp what the different, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, what they're used for and what circles they're used for. And you guys come in as experts on your resume. You don't want to put social media on your page, but if you know what each one of those things are and putting yourself as an expert in how the firm can really build business through that and do it effectively, not just to sell, but putting appropriate content in each platform, that really makes you look like a rock star. And getting certified or knowing Xero, even if your firm's not currently using it, but saying that you've been certified or you're using this platform, it puts you ahead of other people because you're actually out there having your pinky toe in the waters of the cloud. And where that's not a big task for you guys because you're young, it's a huge thing for firm owners who are considering adopting technology. And like Evan said, what made him stand out on his resume are some of his experiences and some of the skills he had. And that's a big skill as far as knowing the cloud, maybe even dealing with Xero and having that on your resume as being certified, and then also knowing social media markets and marketing. That lets you stand out a lot. And that's something we're very slow to adopt as accountants, especially right now in the industry.
All right, and so we've got these three trends that are emerging, and specifically with regard to accountants' work, why is this such a big change for accountants? Well, if you look at the old way of working, you had not only a couple different steps in the way that accountants would interact with their small business clients, you had some really curious kind of hard lines that would be drawn in the sand. And so what a lot of businesses would do is you would have a computer or two there in the small business owner's office. They would go about their business, and then at the end of the the month or the quarter or the year, they would take that file from their accounting software and they would literally save it onto a floppy disk. You can Google that if you have no idea what I'm talking about. I wouldn't blame you, but floppy disks were a thing in the past. CDs even are increasingly hard to come by, but they would take these things and they would drop them in the mail to their accountant. And so even though you think on the one hand that you're using computers in an intelligent way, as soon as you take all that info in the computer and stick it into a paper envelope and drop it in the mail, you stop and think about how ridiculous that is, and you wonder why the cloud didn't start to become a lot more sensible way to look at things earlier, because then the accountant would receive that data in the mail, and then they would have to have their own copy of the software that they would load that database or other files into. And as soon as you do that, you end up now with two independent sets of information. And if the small business owner is still making changes on their side and the accountant is doing work on their end, all of a sudden now you risk having those items diverge from each other, which obviously with accounting, perhaps more than most things, can really be problematic if everyone's working with two sets of books. And so that means that the new way solves that problem by having one single set of books. So with a product like Xero that operates in the cloud, all of that financial data and documentation sits in the cloud, where both the small business as well as the accountants and bookkeepers and other financial helpers that they have, everyone's able to access that single piece of information at the same time. It's seamless, it's live. You don't have to worry about whether you've got updated versions of software or the most current version of their file database. It's one place that everyone can get to, and so the accountant can be in there looking at all of the end of the year stuff, getting ready for taxes, and at the exact same time, the small business owner can be in there looking at today's stuff, that they sold something, that they bought something, and everyone can be playing their part, performing their role, independent of each other, but in that one common area. And so you eliminate all those drains on time as you're waiting for files to go through the mail. You eliminate that chance that you're going to be working on diverging copies of the information. And so this really serves not just as a boon for accountants because it gets rid of a lot of those potential headaches. It really is a rethinking of work processes. So whereas before they used to need a really hard cutoff to say, all right, as of this certain date after the end of the month or the quarter or whatever, you've got to send me all of your financial data so that then we have X amount of time to prepare it. And if the small business owner is late in doing that, or if their package gets lost in the mail, how do you recover that lost time? That's when people end up scrambling and working late hours, and no one's happy. This takes a lot of the guesswork out, but it also changes the timing, because accountants now, instead of waiting until the end of a period, they can actually be working on bits and pieces of their work all throughout the month, throughout the quarter, throughout the year, and completely restructuring the flow of work that is. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that probably very few of the folks, not counting Sabrina, that are with us today, probably don't run your own accounting firm, and probably have not been in a position to rethink how your employees do work. But if you can think about other processes that you've been involved with, certainly at school, whether it's with a class or maybe a project in a certain class. Maybe it's, again, with a hobby you have, some other kind of social group or club, maybe through your church or sports team. Whatever you've done, extracurricular or not, see if you can find an opportunity where you were able to affect some kind of major change to the processes that people worked in, and change the way that tasks were undertaken, because anything like that is going to be very attractive on a resume. Even, again, if it's not a job you had, simply being able to show that you were able to look at the layout of the land and say, you know what, the rules have changed. We're doing things in one way, but we're only doing it that way because it's the way we've always done it. But I can see that because information has changed, technology has changed, whatever it might be, the assumptions that everyone made before you realized were wrong, and that called for a new way of looking at things. And if you can show that ability to identify those situations and to take action on them, it doesn't matter if you actually had a job when you did it or if it was, like I said, an extracurricular type scenario. It's going to show a level of thought and initiative that employers are going to want to snap up real quickly. All right, and so why is it that as we look at this new way that accountants and other financial professionals are able to work with their clients with all that data, what is it that really got revolutionized? When you look at computing and cloud technology, if you could distill down to just one idea of what has actually changed, I would say that it's the idea of connections. And the idea that now, whereas you had, whether it was people, tools, information, everything used to be disconnected, and a lot of the work that people put in 9 to 5 was about gathering all of those pieces. And now a lot of those connections are not only closer, they're more efficient, they're more automated, and the fact that you can start to take all these different elements, whether whether you're a small business or a large business, you're conducting banking each day, you are maintaining government compliance, you can start to draw those dotted lines of connectedness any which way you want, because you look at all the different cloud technologies that are out there, they all do different things, and you can just sort of piecemeal together the set of solutions that is going to solve whatever problem you're on, rather than having to look for a one-stop shop. And so you look at all the different elements you're trying to connect, and then start drawing those dotted lines wherever you want them to be. Sabrina, when you look back over the, you mentioned that you've owned and run your firm for 10 or I think even more years at this point. As you look at the change in the way people are able to work together and the way these connections are formed, what's the most striking change you've seen even just in the last 10 years?
I mean, the biggest thing is the connectivity, like you were talking about with the cloud software. It used to be when we gave, Ian's absolutely right, the best I could give my clients was 30-day late information. Now with the new technology that's out, I can be in the software at the same time as a client. I can let them see the numbers, what they're doing on a real-time basis. So if they need to call me about a car lease or making some kind of major financial decision or seeing what's going on, we can be in there at the same time. It takes 5 minutes, and they're on their way. So it's really empowering me to move more from a data entry, journal entry, technical accountant to being what I really want to be and what I really love doing is being an advisor and helping my small businesses grow. And that technology has enabled me to do that on a real-time basis. That gives so much value to us as accountants, to small business owners, instead of just seeing it somebody with glasses on, writing numbers and stuff, where we're being a real good advisor. And I believe that with this technology and where we're going, is going to really change the profession, and I don't know how I could have done that 10 years ago. I'm so glad I had this. I could never let this go because it just puts us in a whole nother box.
And so when you look at Xero or really any of the successful cloud players, what is it that allows us to be successful? How did we kind of make this environment where folks like Sabrina can succeed better in their business? Well, there's 3 things that we looked at when we were designing and building our product. Obviously, that connectivity is super important, and any opportunity to build more bridges and draw those dotted lines of connectedness, that had to be part of the equation. The user interface is so important as well, because we talked about the fact that now, whether you are a small business owner or maybe an accountant who works inside a small business or just an employee at that small business, whether you are an outside bookkeeper or an accountant or a tax preparer, or maybe you're an independent CFO for hire even, you've got all of these different people with different roles and responsibilities all interacting with this one single product. And so the user interface suddenly becomes incredibly important, because the old adage is you can't please all the people all the time, but that is starting to get questioned. And is there a way that in fact you can come close to building something that is easily understandable and used by a very broad range of potential users? And then, of course, building in the cloud was essential. Xero is built in the cloud. There was never a desktop version. There's never been an install CD of Xero. We were built from day one in the cloud because our founders knew that that was sort of a non-negotiable way to interact with this new way of doing business. And so as you start looking at the layout of the land and how best to serve your customers, if you're a company like Xero, you start with the idea of, okay, we've got to be online. All right, so far so good, and that lets you bring in some of the really key cloud aspects like bringing in multiple users and allowing that anywhere, anytime access. Then as we start growing our product more, you start building up those connections. Now that all those different users are in the mindset that they can be online from any place, anytime, you can start saying, okay, now that you're all online, how do we connect you to the people and information and products that matter? And so that can be connecting with your bank. It can be bringing in, invoicing and payments. It can be interaction with mobile devices, where it's one thing to carry your laptop around and maybe work out of a cafe, but literally, can you pull your phone out of your pocket, for 5 minutes while you're standing in line at the store, and actually be productive in that 5 minutes and keep your workflow going. Then, and this is the point where Xero is starting to separate itself from the rest of the industry, we're trying to make everyone a lot smarter. Big data is big for us, so being able to take that information and make it a lot more intelligent, not only in terms of presenting information in an easily digestible way, but trying to be proactive about it, figuring out what you need to know and making it accessible, but also making sure that you can get to the information that you need. As a small business, either owner or working in a small business, there's a lot of times where you'll say, man, it would be great if I knew ... whatever it might be, but then you start saying, well, I don't have that data, or I don't have the means to crunch through the data, and so those are the types of barriers that we're excited about beginning to break down, because then we can really move into a position of leadership, not just for the accounting industry, but really for small business overall, because that's where we want to be. We are first and foremost an accounting software, but only insofar as we can become really a platform for small businesses to succeed. And so having said that, it occurs to me, and Jeff made the point, that some of you probably don't know who we are. And so we keep saying 000. Note that we spell that with an X, not with a Z. We are not Xerox misspelled. We are Xero, and we are the coolest accounting software that probably you haven't heard of yet. The company was founded in New Zealand, and so countries like New Zealand and Australia, we're market leaders in those countries. So we're very well established. We're not just another startup that's wandering along, but we are still fairly new in the United States, just a couple of years under our belt. So we've got some folks like Sabrina who are early adopters and are reaping the benefits, but Xero is a product where if you do your research, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can do that on your own, but it's the type of product where if you can step in front of a potential employer and already be knowledgeable, show that you're ahead of the curve, it can come across as very impressive to that employer. To give you a sense of our size, we consider ourselves a global company. We have over 400,000 small businesses that pay us each month to use the product. So it's not like we're just giving it away for free to make ourselves look big. People are putting the reliability of their business behind us, and we've shown some pretty phenomenal growth over these last couple of years. In fact, we're at the point, and in fact, I need to update this slide because 17 is too small. We're actually up to 19 offices across the world in 12 different cities, and so you can see we are spreading out. But to be global like this, given all the cloud technologies that are out there, it's super easy. We use things like Google Docs and especially Hangouts. So, I mean, I have video chats with people in New Zealand all the time. And it's it's no different than if they were sitting 5 feet away. And so those are the types of tools where when you can just incorporate those in the way you work very fluidly, that's not something that comes easily to folks that haven't begun using those tools or adopting them. And so explaining to someone, to a potential employer, not only your knowledge and familiarity with these types of tools, but also the fact that you can sort of lead that thought change, that's something else that can be very attractive to a potential employer. Jeff mentioned that Xero was honored by Forbes magazine last year. They did a ranking of what they call growth companies, and those are companies that are showing certain, financial, solid ground, and are specifically innovative companies, and they gave us their #1 ranking on that list. So that's something that you can also Google if you want to read the full article and see what they were looking at, see some of the other great company names that were on that list, and we were really honored to be named #1 by them. And so you look at what Xero has done and what cloud technology brings to you, and what we call it is the single ledger. And this sort of starts getting back to the accounting work that you're probably all used to doing. The idea of that single ledger that everyone is able to access as they need. One of the things Xero does that's different from most other software is we do not charge based on the number of users. Most places do, and that's one of the ways we've differentiated ourselves, because you might have a lot of different people that can contribute valuable information and insight into the entry of transactions, to reporting and analysis, and so you don't want to limit yourself. And certainly from an accounting standpoint, you don't want to be in a position where you have to have a couple people share the same login so that you can get around paying for additional seats, because as soon as you do that, well, you lose accountability, which is so critical to people that, well, at least who are going to be successful in the accounting field. And so it ties back to not just the cloud, but also that social aspect, the fact that you can have people that may only spend 1 day out of the month working with the books, but that's totally fine. You can make them part of the equation rather than forcing just a couple of people to do all of the work. And so that leads to a much better workflow. You've got the people who actually have, their hands on the information, able to interact very fluidly, and so that information can come into Xero much more readily, whether it is an individual, whether it is something as simple as bank information in your bank statement. It's the fact that that data will flow into Xero automatically, so you don't have to do it yourself. It's just sitting there waiting for you. Again, it changes that flow of work, and because changing that flow of work can lead to such great benefits for accounting firms, your ability to show that you can be a part of that change and lead that type of changing, workflow, and is something that you can demonstrate on your resumes right now. And so what is it exactly that professionals get out of all of this? Well, they get efficiency, because if you get either a situation like Sabrina was describing where she used to have to give a cutoff for people to submit information, now she can start working on her side of things much sooner. And if it turns out the client did something horribly wrong, she's not up against a stopwatch to fix that. She's got the time she needs to make her deadlines. But efficiency also means timing of work. It means instead of having to do everything in the first few days of of the month, perhaps you can space that work out over times that are perhaps less busy during the month. And what does efficiency do for you? Well, it helps you bring in revenue, pure and simple. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a lot of this has to do with dollars. If you want to keep running a business, you need to keep money coming in so you can pay your employees, certainly pay yourself, keep yourself and your family happy, and you can increase that revenue as an accounting professional when you work more efficiently, partially because you can make use of downtime without having to burn yourself out working crazy hours on the busy periods. But the other interesting thing that happens is you can start looking at pricing models that really emphasize what you deliver as opposed to the amount of time you spend working on it. And that's something that a lot of accountants are having a hard time adopting, and that's another reason why folks like Sabrina are having such great success, because something that took you 40 hours to do before, and maybe and you bill X amount for it, well, that client is really paying for the end product. And so as long as you deliver that product, if you can use Xero and other similar tools and get that work done in a quarter of the time, your ability to increase revenue based on your employees' time really starts to go up a lot. And you can use that to either work fewer hours, take more vacation time. You can use that to grow the size of the practice more. It really is up to you. Sabrina, what would you say has been your sort of biggest change in terms of the way that you're able to run your practice and maybe the flexibility that you've gotten by having these cloud tools?
I think the biggest thing is that we have a flexibility where with the efficiency of the software, we can train our clients who do pretty much once we get everything set up, it runs itself. And then with our pricing model, instead of, like you said, charging hourly and not really being able to predict your revenue for the year, we put everybody on a pricing model on a monthly amount so they know exactly what they're paying, there's no surprises, and it's an even flow and everything keeps going throughout the year. So that's been our revenue growth and efficiency. But the most thing that's not measured by money is the feeling I get from empowering my clients. Now they have at their fingertips on a minute basis, 2 o'clock in the morning, whenever, exactly the financial snapshot of their business, and they're more empowered and more informed to make decisions. And they also have that flexibility where they can carry it on a mobile device or access it from anywhere with the internet.
Awesome, thank you. Let's see. I'm going to skip past this piece because I know we've got a couple good questions about, all right, so, how can you access Xero? How can you learn more? I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. So rather than talking about specific features here, instead I'm going to tell you in a couple minutes how you can actually access Xero for free and play around a little bit, as well as a lot of the educational materials that we have available for you. Obviously, in making sure that we're headed in the right direction, we do a lot of surveying and polling, and our marketing team works on that. And it's not just a case of are small business owners interested in cloud computing. There's a significant portion out there where if an accountant isn't willing to go down that route, they just won't even talk to them. And so what's going to happen is firms are going to have to start figuring out how they can incorporate cloud technology. Xero certainly, but there's a lot of other great cloud solutions out there that will help you solve other tasks and issues. And these firms need to start bringing on those tools, otherwise they're going to go the way of the dinosaur, which means, as I mentioned earlier, they are going to need champions in their firm to help lead that change. And that's something that you can do without necessarily having a lot of industry experience, simply by understanding how these tools work and the nature that they work, because it's really about a lot more than the software. It's about the way you use the tool. Software is just a tool, and so in order for it to do something useful, you have to have a vision of what you want to build. You can have all the greatest tools in the world, but they're not going to build a house for you. You have to design that vision of what the house should look like, and choose your materials and make sure that it's going to be safe, that it's not going to just collapse on you. Then the tools can help you get that dream fulfilled, but they are serving you, not the other way around. And so that's why Xero's real effect on the industry is not so much just the accounting side. That is where we have laid our foundation. But really what we're creating is an entire platform that businesses and financial professionals can work with. And again, it all comes down to each person playing their own role and contributing in the way that makes the most sense for them. So whether it's the accounting side of Xero, the practice studio and modern practice tools that we have relate to firms like Sabrina's being able to manage their clients and various workflows kind of behind the scenes, and then our add-on ecosystem is one of the other really powerful aspects of Xero. So what Xero add-ons are, these are third-party products that connect to Xero through our open API. And so basically any software company that wants to integrate their product with Xero, they can do it. We don't charge them. We put all the instructions on how to do it out there on the web, and people can just build whatever they want. We actually feature the ones that we have been able to test and vet on our website. There's over 350 of them. There's some big players in there like Bill.com and PayPal and Square, as well as a lot of little ones that maybe you haven't heard of before. But what that allows accountants as well as small businesses to do is really build an a la carte solution based on their needs. And they can pick and choose all these high caliber tools that they want to put together. Sabrina, are there kind of certain add-ons or a way that you like to approach evaluating if you need an add-on, if there's you know, one that's going to be a good fit for you or a client? What's your experience with that add-on ecosystem been?
I think that's what really made Xero stand out for me because of the open APIs. Because it's not a one-all, fix-all, but you can go to the add-on place to make it unique for that client. I have a client who's a coffee roaster, so we use Unleash. So when he's roasting his coffee and doing shrinkage, he can find that, and that's an awesome add-on. One of the best things that comes with Xero, I guess if you're a partner at a certain level, is Xero Practice Manager. Me personally, we use that in the firm, and that's my hub and my CRM for all my clients, where all my staff, no matter where they are, can access it, and it talks directly to Xero, and that's been a lifesaver for us as far as practice management. I just hooked up someone with Zen Payroll that talks good. Xero has rolled out payroll live in certain states, and I just signed up a client for 30 employees on Xero Payroll, and that's been working excellent, and it's been a time saver. And then as far as payment systems, I really love Stripe. We have a guy who's an auto detailer who was trying to do everything by hand, but since we put him on Xero, connected to the Stripe, he goes out, does the car, emails the invoice, gets paid right on the dot, and we keep track of everything instead of him dropping off a box of receipts at the end of the year. And it's just been awesome and a really good time saver.
Awesome. I have a couple more slides, and then we'll be able to do some Q&A at the end. But I want to quickly touch on a couple of good questions that have already started coming in. Eileen is curious about her ability to potentially network with companies and firms that use Xero. And actually, Eileen, if you go to Xero's website, we have a partner listing where you can find Sabrina as well as a number of other practices that use Xero. And that can be a great way for you to identify maybe the firms that you want to you know, seek out or network with or find that way. But there is a listing, and you can, as you were asking, you can actually filter by state and region as well. And then Liz had a question. Liz says, does Xero have a market in Asia? So we don't have a lot of customers in Asia, with the exception, of course, of New Zealand and Australia, if you count them as part of the greater Asia region. But Xero is a global product, and it is available for use everywhere. Probably the only limitation to it being in those regions is simply that it's currently only available in English, although that is certainly something that will change over time. But Xero can be used in any country of the world. And so as we kind of head in near the close here, there's an anecdote here that I like, a simple quote from Ian, and what it comes down to is that happy customers stick around. If you can make your customers happy, they're going to stick with you, and your practice that you work in is going to have a lot more stability over time. And so looking for every opportunity to keep customers happy, make them happier than they expected to be, that is the way that businesses like Sabrina's and Ian's here are able to succeed and thrive. All right, so why should you care about all of this stuff? I've been talking forever. We've had a lot of great insight from Sabrina, but why does all of this manage to you? Well, when you look at really big technologies, when you look at things like electricity and the telephone, it used to take a very long time for those technologies to become ubiquitous. But you look more recently, as early as color television, and definitely this is happening with the internet, you can't just wait around to see if it's going to work. You know, you can't say, well, I don't know about this whole internet thing. Maybe it's going to go away in a couple of years. You've got to be ready to jump on that immediately. There's that old saying with poker where if you can't tell who the sucker is, it's probably you. And so the folks that are still humming and hawing about the internet, about the cloud, they are going to get played by each of you people, quite honestly, because you're the ones that are going to be able to jump in there and move forward in a much more aggressive and successful way. As we look at kind of keywords that appear in job ads, jobs that look for mobile and big data and that kind of work process and thinking type roles, they are way on the upswing. Whereas you look at something like IT manager, and it's going way down because you no longer need the type of infrastructure to run all these systems. When all you need to do is log into a website and have access to all these powerful tools, you can start to focus on the actual work you're doing and not the behind-the-scenes maintenance. And so again, that really gives each of you a leg up compared to people in your position even 10 years ago, because you don't have to have all this kind of necessarily nitty-gritty understanding. What you really want is a breadth of knowledge and the ability to stay lean and flexible. And so to help you make yourself more marketable, the small thing that we can do is give you some free information about Xero. So if you go to Xero.com, you can actually attend a number of training courses there, both live courses as well as on-demand videos. We have another site called Xero TV that has a selection of really short, under 5-minute videos on a range of topics. In particular, we have an in-depth course to become certified in Xero. Typically, that course is a $250 course. But for everyone joining us today, we're actually going to give you a promo code that we will send out via email to everyone. And when you sign up for that course anytime before the end of March, you will be welcome to attend that course and attempt the certification exam completely free of charge, so that you can go into those first interviews and amaze your potential bosses with the fact that you are already knowledgeable and indeed certified with Xero. So rest assured, your future is bright. You can do it and all that other pep talk stuff. But in all seriousness, recognize that you've got a lot of really tangible skills, and you may not realize that they're as valuable as they are. And so doing that accurate self-assessment and then figuring out how to build on that by becoming more knowledgeable about the technologies that are available, and your ability to show employers that you can think about how to apply all of the info that's out there to aggregate that info and make good decisions, that's what's really going to help you to stand out. And it begins with, like I say, keeping your eyes open to the trends that are going on around you. So I think we've got maybe a couple more questions in here. And let's see, we've had a couple folks who have asked about how to learn the product better, and of course I just mentioned that if you go to Xero.com, you can access a lot of that training material, including a lot of questions about Xero versus QuickBooks, that other accounting software. And I think that that is also something better covered in a broader course, and so you can find information about that at Xero.com. But let's see, Jeff, did you see any other burn-in questions in there that we want to fit into our last few moments here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've gotten a handful of questions about the promo code, how can we use Xero, and et cetera. And so let me be real clear. We will follow up in an email that will have a web address and a special code just for the folks who are on the call and attended Meet the Firms Week. So rest assured you'll be getting that in your hands this week. And yeah, I actually have a few people who have said, well, I'm interested in using Xero in my business that I own, my father's business. And what I did in those cases, Evan, was just ask them to email me, and I'll put them in touch with the right folks at Xero to sort of answer those specific questions. I think this is a kind of a wide open question, but I think it's important to ask this, Evan. Rachel wants to know, could this technology replace other software? And I want to ask that question because it absolutely can. I'm not to throw anybody else under the bus, but I think it helps position Xero. Do you mind commenting on that question?
Yeah, and actually, I'd love to hear Sabrina's thoughts. And actually, Sabrina, I don't recall if you still use QuickBooks with some of your clients. I know we've got some partners that are exclusively Xero shops now, but how did you sort of approach that discussion with your clients? If you do still have ones on QuickBooks, and if you're trying to get them moved over to Xero, what's your feeling on that?
Yeah, we use QuickBooks, we use Xero with all our clients. What I did was, I'll give you an example. I had a guy who does about $3 or $4 million a year who was using a desktop version of QuickBooks. When you take QuickBooks from desktop and QuickBooks Online, it's totally different. And like Evan was saying, it's not built for the internet. It's clunky and it doesn't give you all the reporting. So with Xero, it's built for the online cloud of software, and then if you don't have exactly what you need, you can get add-ons. But his life has changed where he was inputting and doing stuff because QuickBooks wants you to do it a certain way, and Xero is built for the cloud, and it's more efficient with the bank feeds, and it's super fast and efficient. So I really believe Xero, even though they're coming out in their growth company, is going to replace it because QuickBooks Online, yes, it's cloud of software, but it's very clunky and it's not giving you all the. I know they just opened up their API, but they're way behind Xero as far as functionality and the feel. And the other thing I like about Xero, it's real language. It's not accounting language. Like we're accountants, so we know accounts receivable, accounts payable, but they have like money in, money out. So with my small business owners, most of them in a hustle mode trying to make money and do stuff. They don't want to learn accounting. They just want to be able to know what the numbers mean, and Xero made that so much easier. And trust me, I tried several different, not just QuickBooks and Xero, several different cloud accounting, and I try to keep up on it. And not because Xero's on the line, this has been the best thing so far going, and I think it's going to continue to be because they're always trying to improve themselves. So yes, there's other things out there like Wave apps and stuff like that, but they're very clunky and they're not very good. And I just think Xero at this point is just growing. It's a better product than QuickBooks, personally speaking. And hey, I have been a Pro Advisor QuickBooks for the past 15 years, and I'm still certified online. But I use Xero just because it's just a better product and it's better for me to deal with my clients.
That's a great, Sabrina. Thanks. Sabrina, and I was going to throw out there, you know, how many times I got that question. What does Sabrina use and why? And so thanks for knocking that out.
Okay.
Does it transfer nicely if a client uses Xero? If a client uses Xero but an accountant uses QuickBooks, does it translate, or how did you handle those situations, Sabrina?
No. What Xero does is really awesome. They have free QuickBooks conversion for like the past year. So if the client was using QuickBooks or they're used to QuickBooks, Xero will convert the past year for you for free. And then we do a little bit of cleanup, to be honest with you, but it translates really good with Xero as far as setting up, and it's not a massive undertaking. It's not like importing a whole bunch of CSV files or starting over. It's a pretty painless process.
That's fantastic. So you know, I think what we should do is probably wrap it up, Evan. But before I kind of have wrap this up, I really want to thank you guys for bringing this topic. We speak a lot on college campuses, and we, of course, talk a great deal about Xero, talk a great deal about the accountants who are using it in accounting that can boost your resume. So thanks for bringing this introduction to everybody. And what I like to ask everyone on the call is feel free to email me. I would very much like your feedback or questions, and if this was a valuable session for you. And if you'd like to see more of this, did this open your eyes to anything? It helps us to understand. So feel free to email me, jeff@accountingfly.com. Sabrina, thank you so much for doing this. This is the second time you've done this, and I learn something every time. I just want to thank you for your time.
Oh, no problem. You're welcome.
And thanks a lot. And Evan, thank you for walking us through this time. And I may have I have one follow-up item for you, Evan. I'll get the web address we need to send to everyone on the call for the free access. And thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
You bet. Happy to help.
Cool. Always great working with you guys at Xero, and Sabrina, you too. And hope everyone on the call has an awesome day, a fantastic afternoon, and an enjoyable rest of the week. So we'll shut it down for now. Everybody, take care. Bye now.
Bye. Bye-bye.